Legion jewels? Hi, Zizaran here, and I wanted to make a video on both the acquisition and what just Legion jewels do. So, Legion jewels were added in Legion League, and they're still in the game today, and there are 5 different ones. We have the Glorious Vanity, we have the Militant Faith, Brutal Restraint, Elegant Hubris, and Lethal Pride. These are basically different factions or different armies, and they each have their own jewel. So first, let's talk a little bit about what they do and how they work. There is a number and a name on each of these. For the Glorious Vanity, the number is what the small passives do. So let's look at the 5 different ones. So a Glorious Vanity, what that does is, you can see that it has a number, and it's between 100 and 8,000. It's sacrificed in the name of Zibakwa, and there's a couple of different ones. And what the name does is it changes the keystone. And obviously in some locations, like I think here, you could change 2 keystones. You can't stack that. You can only get 1. So even if you put it here and both of these turn into Divine Flesh, like, you know, Zibakwa is always going to be Divine Flesh. You can't get Divine Flesh twice. And these are just like new, pretty interesting keystones. And there's a lot of them for each Timeless Jewel. And the number, what you get between 100 and 8,000, will change what all the small ones do. And if you happen to get one that is 5,946, that will be the exact same combination as this one. So what sometimes people would do in Legion League is they would look out for really, really powerful combinations. Sometimes you would get ones with like 60 to 70 curse effect or even 100. And you would get different jewels with like really, really good fortify effect. So, you know, it could actually be that the same jewel is found twice in the league. Core use of these jewels is to change the keystones. So you're normally not looking for a specific number. Most of the time, you're either just looking for any and just divining it to the name you want, or you can sometimes get very, very lucky. Sometimes you could get, for example, a Zibakwa, which is the Chaos Rest defense jewel, with several of the nodes being max Chaos Rest. And especially if it's in a spot like maybe here, where if both of these were +1 max res, that would obviously be very good because they would just be 1 point. But most of the time, again, we mostly care about the name itself. And another really painful thing about these is if you happen to get one where the number is really important and all the small nodes are really good, it's very, very hard to sell them. You basically need to get a trusted party, for example, a streamer, to vouch for you that this is what the jewel does. Because in Legion League, that's what I did. I set up a big auction house where I would confirm what people's jewels were and sell them for them. Because obviously, you can't really prove that they do what they do without streaming it and stuff like that. So it was a very, very easy thing to scam with. So Lethal Pride is different than Glorious Vanity because Glorious Vanity changes every node, whereas a Lethal Pride just adds to them. So if you see, every small node here gets 4 strength and the traveling nodes get 2 strength. And there will be an additional thing on every notable. This one has regen, this one has attack damage each as life, attack damage, fortify effect, fist damage taken as fire, percentage life, and there can be other things like percentage strength as well. So there are some really, really strong things, and Lethal Pride is actually used not necessarily for the notable, and there are some good notables here as well. Like on my recent strength stacker, I use Tempered by War, which is a really, really cool way of scaling defense. But Lethal Pride is actually used to try to divine for example, getting 40 or 50% fortify effect. This is very strong, and it can come with things like increased melee damage, crit chance, and loads of good stuff. So it's an extremely good jewel, especially for champions or melee classes. Militant Faith is more used for one of the ones that gives you Transcendence, which is a really, really cool way of tanking. And it's a little bit more of a complicated jewel. The jewel builds up devotion, and for example, this one has increased effect of non-curse auras per 10 devotion and 4% totem damage per 10 devotion. And you get devotion by taking passives inside here. So you can see all these are giving 5, traveling nodes are giving 10. This is a okay notable, like it's not really used a lot. 80% of max mana is converted to twice that much armor. And you can see that here we have 5% additional fist damage reduction while you have at least 150 devotion. Cold exposure if you have 150 devotion. It's very, very different. This one doesn't change every notable. You can see that some are still the same, whereas others have been entirely changed. So very, very different than the other jewels. Next up, we have Elegant Hubris. And again, Elegant Hubris is very, very different than the others. It has its own keystones, they all do, but Elegant Hubris makes every single travel or small node into, well, nothing. It's called the price of glory. And what it does on the big ones instead is it actually makes the big ones fairly good. This is probably the least used one, I would say. It's very, very hard to get a good one. I've had one really, really good one. And when I ran the jewel auction, I think we ended up with a total of 3 or 4 that went for like 40, 50 XLs because they were so good. They're usually usable in like this area, and this area. The way they work is if there's nodes that are only 2 points, they can be really good because it can be things like 40 crit multi, 80 fist damage, or arguably what I think is the best thing, you can get both 80% minion max life and 80% minion damage. So you could actually end up getting a really, really good one for the Summon Raging Spirit minion instability build, because you could end up with 80 life, 80 damage, 80 life, 80 damage, and obviously that is extreme amounts for just 8 points. So you also have good things here. However, being able to get one that is that good is very, very hard. So you are looking for a large amount of divines, and like I said, I've seen very, very few good ones, but the ones that are good have been very impressive. Next up, we have Brutal Restraint, and this is similar to Lethal Pride, but it does the same thing with Dex. So you can see all the small nodes are getting 4 and 2 Dex, and it changes and adds things like Blind on here, Accuracy, non-unique flask give flask effect, fast charges, and this one is used sometimes. It's used especially by Dex stackers because you could get lucky and get 20 to 25% increased dexterity, and obviously you are getting a large amount of flat as well. Again, not used as much. A lot of the keystones aren't that good, so the most used ones is definitely going to be Glorious Vanity and Lethal Pride, followed by Militant Faith, with the other two not being used as much. So how do we obtain these? Well, whenever you've gotten 100 Legion Splinters, so for example Karui Splinters, you will get a Karui emblem. And there are 5 different emblems, one for each of the Legions. You can put these in your map device. You need to put in at least 2. So you could put in a Val Legion and a Karui Legion, and they will like start fighting and you can kill both of them. And the more you're able to kill the boss of this Legion, the more the respective jewel will be able to drop. If I kill the Karui leader like 15 times and ignore the Val one, I cannot drop the Val jewel. And once you go inside this emblem or instance, there will be like a circle, and in the middle there will be a purple circle that you step inside, and you stand inside it for like maybe around 2 seconds, and that will start the fight. And every time you've killed the bosses, you go back inside. You can do up to a 5-way, and this is actually how you unlock a 5-slot map device. So to unlock it, you have to do a 4-way Legion. So this would mean doing just any 4 Legion emblems. And you can't do multiple of the same. You can't put like 2 Karui Legions and 2 Val Legions. You have to have one of each. And the level of the instance will be decided by how many and which ones you put in. So for example, if you put in a Maraketh, a Templar Legion, and an Eternal Legion, that is going to be higher level than if you do the Eternal Legion, the Apprentice one, the Val Legion, and the Karui Legion. So they are like ranked similar to like Breach Lords, where obviously the Chaos Chayula one is going to be higher level. It is similar here with the Maraketh Legion being the highest level. So you get to like play around with it. Most decent builds should be able to handle a 3-way Legion. Especially what I like doing, if I feel like I'm low on single target, is maybe I don't ever care about the Parandus one, right? I don't care about it dropping, so I'll put in the Eternal Legion, and then I'll put in the Karui and the Val, and then I will only focus on killing the Karui and the Val, because most builds should be able to handle keeping both of them on cooldown. I think it's a 25 or 30 second cooldown after you've killed it that it can respawn again. And that makes a lot more use out of it, and ends up with you getting more currency, because obviously it doesn't make you happy. If you end up using an extra 10 seconds on killing the Parandus one and you get a Parandus jewel, that doesn't really help you, right? They might be like 10C, sometimes 20C, but there's no real use in like killing that. So again, focus on the ones that you want to kill, and this means that you can usually go one step above what you would normally be able to full clear. Killing the small ones doesn't matter. You can't get a timeless jewel from killing a bunch of small ones. So sometimes people will be like, oh, you're getting so few like rewards or so few like, points. Like it'll stack up at the bottom showing how many you've gotten. But that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is how many of the bosses can you kill. And doing 5 ways, like actually having all 5 and killing a lot of them, is very, very hard. They become high level, very tanky. And I usually suggest getting a friend or someone that has a headhunter to do those if for some reason you want to farm 5-way legions. Personally, I usually do 3 or 4 ways if I have a build with a lot of single target damage. And even in a 4-way, I will normally drop one of them where I just don't care about killing them and keep the others on cooldown. Make sure I'm giving myself the best chance to get a Legion jewel. And when you encounter a Legion monolith in maps, you will basically spawn a bunch of monsters that are frozen in time. First, you break them out, and you kind of have to kill them twice. And the ones you do break out, they're sort of freed after a few seconds, and then you can like kill them and get rewards. And there are icons over the heads of the ones that you can kill depending on what reward. So some will give incubators, which is like Pokemon Go eggs, and there are some that will just give you armor rewards, etc., etc. However, if there is a boss that spawns in the Legion Monolith, there will be a purple beam shooting out of the Legion Monolith showing you in what direction the boss is. There are some really, really big chests with good rewards as well, but there is no like beam or indication for these. You just have to run around and find them. So obviously having a good clear speed build is really, really good for these. The best place to farm these jewels is in the new Vistira region, and once you've upgraded for emblematic, every time you're putting in like Legion scarabs and stuff like that, you've got a decent chance of actually getting a Legion emblem, because every single like each additional splinter that drops has a 1% chance to be a full one, and obviously that adds up when you're doing like 4 or 5. Yesterday I got very lucky and got like 6 full emblems from 7 or 8 scarabs, but then I got unlucky and didn't get a single timeless jewel from killing the bosses. But yeah, I just wanted to make this quick video explaining Legion jewels to everyone. I hope that covered everything. And if you have any questions, put it in the comments down below. But as always, sub if you liked the video. But more importantly, try to die less than I do.